Okay, good morning. We'll start today in child's pose. So get yourself comfortable in child's pose. You know you can modify it however you need to. And if for whatever reason the knees don't bend and this is really uncomfortable, you could always lie on your stomach and just rest the forehead on top of the hand. So this is always a nice alternative to child's pose if that shape is not working in your body at all. Otherwise, you can keep the hips up high if it's the knees, or bring the hips all the way back. And if it's the shoulders, maybe it's just one shoulder, that arm can go back or just rest. And if it's both shoulders, then you can just bring both arms back, and that they can go all the way back too. So, but if child's pose works in your body, you want the arms forward, hips back toward the heels. And child's pose, similar to single pigeon, is one of those poses that people really love, or it just doesn't work for them. So that's why I always give a lot of options so that you can find a way to get the same feeling out of the pose in maybe a slightly different shape. So start to take a deeper breath in through the nose, back out through the nose. Deep inhale in through the nose, back out through the nose. One more like that together. Deep breath in, slowly back out. Keep going on your own. Ujjayi breath. Starting to settle into your mat, into your body, and into your practice. Pushing everything else off to the side. Setting it down, and you can pick it back up after you're done. Start to lift the head, look forward at the hands. So you want the hands forward. Keep the legs in child's pose shape. So big toes together, knees apart, and just come forward onto the knee. So it's going to feel a little weird because the big toes are staying together. And then keep shifting forward until the shoulders are over the wrists. Lift the belly, lift the chest. You get that long spine. So you're already feeling a little bit of a hip opening. And then from here, bend the elbows halfway. It's like chaturanga, but keep the legs in child's pose. Come back up to the top, back to child's pose. So you shouldn't have to move the feet, knees, or hands. They're all right where they need to be. So on an inhale, come forward, keep the legs in child's pose shape, and then lengthen the spine, lifting the lower belly, reaching the heart forward, shoulders stacked over the wrists, bend the elbows halfway like chaturanga, keeping the chest open. Come back up to the top, back to child's pose. Inhale, come forward, stack the shoulders, lengthen the spine. Exhale, bend the elbows halfway, back up to the top, back to child's pose. One more like that. Inhale forward, lengthen the spine, bend the elbows halfway, back up to the top, child's pose. Come forward to hands and knees, and this time separate the feet so the feet are hip width distance apart right behind the knees, and then walk the hands in. We'll just do some rounds of cat-cow. On the inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail, and on the exhale, round the whole spine. And then you take this wherever you want it to go. Follow your own breath, staying at your own pace, and maybe you add movement or take away movement. So I took a class last Saturday virtually with one of my favorite teachers, Vinny Marino, teaches out of Yoga Works in Santa Monica. And Yoga Works was celebrating their 35th anniversary. So they offered the classes for free. I popped in. It was great. And what I love about him is he always does something really different than I've never done before. So that little intro with the child's pose was all him. Back to a neutral spine, walk the hands forward, still keeping the knees down. Hands are ahead of the shoulders. Shift forward onto the knees like you did before, lifting the lower belly, lifting the chest, keeping that long spine. Bend the elbows halfway like chaturanga, back up to the top. 2 more like that. Bend the elbows halfway, hug the outer elbows in, back up to the top. So you should be feeling this in your core too. Bend the elbows halfway, back up to the top, and then lie all the way down onto the mat. So tops of the feet are down, walk the hands back by the lower ribs, hug those outer elbows in. And as you press into the tops of the feet, lift and spread the chest. Just a baby cobra, not your biggest one. Exhale, release. 2 more like that. Each one can get a little bigger. Inhale up, broadening across the chest and the collarbones. Exhale, release. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Come back up to hands and knees. 1 cat-cow. So stack the shoulders over the wrists, and it can be a long one. So inhale, reach the heart forward. And on the exhale, round the whole spine, chin in toward the chest. See how much space you can make. Neutral spine, bring the feet over to one side, come on down to seated, and eventually onto your back. So you might need to scoot the hips forward, lying onto your back, soles of the feet to the mat. Interlace the fingers back behind the head and rest the head in the hands. So knees and feet can be all the way together. Take an inhale where you are. On the exhale, lift the feet, bring the knees in toward the chest, and lift the upper body, bringing the head toward the knees, and then set it all down on the inhale. So it's reverse crunches. Exhale, bring it all in. Head lifts, knees lift. Inhale, set it down. Exhale, curl. Inhale, set it down. Exhale, bring it all in. Set it down on the inhale. 2 more. Exhale, bring it in. Set it back down. Last one. Exhale. And set it down. Hug the knees in toward the chest and then extend the legs straight up. So feet are over the hips. Reach the arms up. Keep those fingers pointing toward the toes. Hug the belly in. Take an inhale right where you are. Exhale, lift the upper body and try to touch the toes. Inhale back. Exhale, lift up, pointing toward the feet. Maybe you touch them. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. 2 more. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Hug the knees in toward the chest. Set the feet down onto the mat. Roll over to one side. Use the hands to bring yourself up to seated. Once you get to seated, come forward to hands and knees. And we'll find our way in downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. This is definitely a different way to get into downward facing dog. There wasn't a smooth transition. So you could glide forward to plank pose, stack the shoulders over the wrists, feet are hip width distance apart, and you want the heels right over the balls of the feet. Stretch the heart forward, pull those legs back. So hands and feet stay right here. Lift the hips up and back, coming into downward facing dog. So that's how you measure the length of your stance. So inhale forward to plank. Notice if you're moving the hands and the feet to adjust the length for plank. That means your downward facing dog was too short. Exhale back, downward facing dog. 2 more like that. Inhale forward to plank. Exhale back, down dog. Last one. Inhale forward to plank. If you want to add a chaturanga, you could. Back up to plank. downward facing dog. Then step the right foot up between the hands, coming into a runner's lunge. So fingertips could be on the mat, hands could be on blocks, feet are hip width distance apart. Keep that back thigh, back knee lifted as you reach the heart forward. Then straighten the front leg. So modified pyramid pose. You could walk the hands in underneath the shoulders, especially if the legs are feeling tight at all. Or hands forward if they're feeling pretty open. Inhale forward to your lunge, left hand underneath the left shoulder. Reach the right arm up for a twist, keeping that top of the left thigh lifted. Sometimes it wants to go down toward the mat. Right hand comes back down to the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Left foot steps up between the hands. Maybe lift the chest up a little bit by coming up onto the fingertips or blocks underneath the hands. That's always nice for the first lunge or two. And you could always stay with that if that just feels better in your body for your practice. Right thigh stays lifted. Back knee stays lifted. If you're okay with that, just keep reaching the heart forward so we take the rounding out of the upper back. Then straighten the front leg, lifting the hips up and back. Maybe you walk the hands back or forward. See which one feels better. Fold over that left leg. And instead of rounding the spine down to the left leg, think about reaching the heart forward toward those left toes. It'll also help you get that left hip in alignment too, especially if it was swinging out to the left. And then maybe the head comes down toward the shin, but it doesn't have to. Inhale forward to your lunge, right hand underneath the right shoulder, left arm reaches up, finding that twist in the spine, starting to wake things up. Left hand comes down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale forward to plank pose. Lower down halfway chaturanga, all the way down to the mat, lying on your stomach, tops of the feet down, setting up for cobra again. Inhale up. You could come up a little bit higher if you're feeling more warm. Exhale, release. Downward facing dog, either hands and knees to get there, or you could take plank to get to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, fold. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. It's like cobra in the upper body. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Legs are strong. Exhale, fold. This time all the way up. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Bring the hands together down in front of the heart. This time, inhale, reach the arms up, interlace the fingers and turn the palms to face away from you. Stretch those arms up so you're hugging those elbows in. And then locate the thumbs. You want those to go up and the pinkies to go back. And that's how you start to feel an opening near the wrists, forearm area. So keep that, root down through the legs, press up through the hands, and then lean to the right. So left hip will go out to the left. That's fine. Just try to stay even in the legs, getting a side body opening on the left side. Come back through to center. See if you can switch the weaving of the fingers. So go one finger over, turn those palms to face away from you again. Thumbs go up, pinkies back, lengthen. So get tall without taking the shoulders with you. And then lean over to the left this time. Right hip can go out to the side. Just stay even in the legs. Make sure you're using both evenly. Back through to center. On your next exhale, release the arms all the way down, fold over the legs, Uttanasana. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. And exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, shift forward onto the toes, chaturanga on the exhale. Inhale up for your back bend, maybe up dog. Exhale back to down dog. And you always have the choice between up dog and cobra. So you just listen to your body, see which one's feeling better. You just don't want to come into up dog right out of the gate. We want to warm up the spine and feel warm with all those muscles we use for such a strong pose. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Bring the hands together overhead, down in front of the heart. Surya A. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back to down dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. One more like that one. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat, back to plank pose, chaturanga, up dog or cobra, down dog. Right leg lifts up and back in your downward facing dog. Keep those right toes pointing down toward the mat so we don't open up that right hip. And then step that right foot all the way through, up between the hands, finding another runner's lunge. Feet are hip width distance apart. You could come up onto the fingertips, reach the heart forward. Now we're taking this into crescent pose. So dig down into both feet, both legs, reach the arms forward all the way up. Maybe you bend the back knee to bring some more space to the lower back. You can also pull the ribs off of the hips, and that'll give you more length in the spine. Then you can work toward a straighter back leg. It doesn't have to be all the way straight, especially if you take away any of that space that you just created. Looking forward, take a few breaths here in your crescent pose. Good. Hands come back down to the mat. Step back to downward facing dog. Either hold dog or take a vinyasa. You choose. Left leg reaches up and back. Toes point down. Knee to nose. Step that left foot all the way through. Feet hip width distance apart. Dig down into both feet. Maybe you come up onto the fingertips first and then rise up, crescent pose. Keeping those transitions smooth. So it should look really smooth and at a slow, nice pace. Bend the back knee. Feel that space in the lower back. And then maybe you can pull the back ribs off of the hips a little bit and then work toward a straighter back leg. Keep the lunge in the front leg, look forward. Couple more breaths here. Next, exhale, hands come down to the mat, step back to downward facing dog. Be happy here or take a vinyasa. From downward facing dog, lift the right leg up and back. Look forward at the hands, right foot outside of the right hand. So wide lunge. Hands can stay down, reach the heart forward. Keep that back knee lifted. Not here for long, just starting to get into that right hip a little bit more. We're coming back to three-legged down dog. So reach that right leg up and back. Right knee, left tricep on the inhale. Back to three-legged down dog. Right foot steps up between the hands. Rise up, crescent pose. Then reach the arms forward, hovering over this front thigh. Warrior three. Take your time, shift the weight forward, lift from the inner left thigh, hugging the core in. Try to keep that left hip from opening. So it's pointing down, all 5 toes on the left foot are pointing down. Then bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the left foot, back to crescent pose. Hands come down to the mat, left hand underneath the left shoulder, right arm reaches up. You could take a half bind if you want. So you could turn that right palm to face behind you and wrap the right arm behind the back. It's a nice opening for that right shoulder, chest area if it's working. Right arm reaches back up. Set that right hand down, back to downward facing dog. Left leg reaches up and back. Look forward at the hands, left foot outside of the left hand. Wide lunge, hands underneath the shoulders, reach the heart forward, keep that back thigh lifted. Toes point forward on the left foot. Three-legged down dog, left leg goes up and back. Left knee, right tricep. Back to three-legged down dog. Left foot steps up between the hands. Feet hip width distance apart. Bring it up to crescent pose. Arms reach forward. Keep reaching the chest forward. You can even look forward. Virabhadrasana 3. Shift the weight forward to that left leg. Reach the right leg up and back. Hug the core and get as long as you can. Bend the standing leg. Reach back with the ball of the right foot out to the right a little bit, landing back into crescent pose. Hands down to the mat. Right hand underneath the right shoulder. Left arm reaches up. Find the twist first. Then decide if you want the half bind, turning that left palm to face behind you, wrapping that left arm behind the back. Keeping the chest revolving open in the twist. Left arm reaches back up. Bring the left hand down to the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Stay here, vinyasa. If you want one, you choose. Vinyasas definitely take up more energy. So you always want to feel your way in and out of those. Skip them when you need to. Then bend the knees, looking forward at the top of the mat. Bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. Utkatasana. Start to shift the weight over to the right foot, lifting the left heel. You're still in chair pose. Can you bring the left knee up toward the chest and come up to standing? So now you'll straighten the right leg, left knee's coming in with you. Right thigh presses back. Right hand stays on the left knee, left arm reaches back. So it's a standing twist, but you can just keep the leg bent unless you're really fired up and you want to extend the leg and that's easy in your body. You're welcome to do that too. Bring everything back forward, reach the arms all the way up, extend that left leg forward, lifting that left thigh as high as you can, and then set the left foot down to the mat, bend the knees, sit back, chair pose, start to shift the weight over to the left foot, lift the right heel up. Right knee comes up to the chest, hug it in, press yourself up to standing, straightening that left leg and leveling off the sit bone. So if the right sit bone's higher, lower it. Left hand stays on this right knee, reach back with the right arm. Extend the leg if you did it on the first side. Gaze can stay forward if you feel wobbly. You could look toward the right or even at that back hand if you're looking for more of a challenge. Gaze comes forward if you changed it. Reach the arms all the way up. Extend that right leg forward. Lift it as high as you can. Set the right foot back down to the mat. Bend the knees. Sit back, chair pose, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Any way you want, back to downward facing dog. Maybe you go straight there. Right leg reaches up and back, three-legged down dog. Right foot outside the right hand, back to that wide lunge. Hands down, shoulders over the wrists. Reach the heart forward. Keep that left leg stretching back behind you. Then back to three-legged down dog. Right leg goes up and back. Right knee, left tricep. Maybe you roll onto the inner edge of that back foot and extend the right leg out to the side. Left arm could reach up two for fallen triangle. Left hand comes back down to the mat. If you lifted it, right leg goes up and back, three-legged down dog. Step that right foot through up between the hands. Feet hip width distance apart. Take your time, come up to crescent pose. Then warrior three. Reach the arms forward. And if arms forward aren't working for you, you could always bring the arms back too, or hands together in front of the chest like prayer. But arms forward if it works. That's definitely the harder variation, so adjust if you need to. Left inner thigh lifts. Keep both legs strong. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the left foot, arms up. Then hover down halfway, reaching the arms forward. Left hand comes down underneath the left shoulder, right arm reaches up. Turn that right palm to face behind you, half bind. Wrap the right arm behind the back. Right arm reaches back up to the sky. Right hand down to the mat, back to downward facing dog. Time for a vinyasa or just stay here. Left leg reaches up and back. Left foot outside of the left hand, wide lizard lunge. Hands underneath the shoulders, reach the heart forward. Back to three-legged down dog. Left leg goes up and back. Next, inhale, left knee, right tricep. Maybe you roll onto the inner edge of the back foot, extend that left leg forward, reaching the right arm up. Right hand comes down, back to three-legged down dog. Left foot steps up between the hands. Keep the feet hip width. Take your time, crescent pose. Start to reach forward, hovering over this front thigh, making your way into warrior three with whatever arm variation makes the most sense. Bend the standing leg, reach back with that right foot, back to crescent pose. Hover over the front thigh, arms forward, right hand comes down underneath the right shoulder, left arm reaches up, open up the chest, turn that left palm to face behind you, wrapping the left arm behind the back. Left hand comes back down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog, optional vinyasa. Bend the knees, look forward, feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Back to chair pose, bend the knees, reach the arms up. Shift the weight over to the right foot, lifting the left heel. Hug that left knee in toward the chest, bring it up to standing, pushing the top of the right thigh back. Finding that twist, left arm reaches back behind you, you open up the chest, you could keep the hand on the knee, or you could play with extending that left leg forward, grabbing onto the edge of the foot. Maybe the leg's not open enough. If that's the case, then you just keep a bend in the knee, it's fine. It doesn't have to be all the way straight. Come back to center, reach the arms up, extend that left leg, lift it high, and then set that left foot down back to chair pose. Shift the weight over to the left foot, lift the right heel, right knee comes in toward the chest, press yourself up to standing. Reach the right arm back, decide if you want to keep that right hand on the left hand on the right knee, or extend the leg forward, play with that. Sit bones level, maybe you look to the side, up to you. Come back to center, reach the arms up, lift and extend the right leg. Set the feet back down to the mat, bend the knees, back to chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Little different this time. Exhale, fold, step the left foot back 2/3 of the way. So those toes are pointing toward 11 o'clock. Square the hips forward and then fold down over the right leg. So Parshvottanasana, pyramid pose. Let the head and the neck go. Hands forward is more intense. Hands back is more gentle. So listen to the right leg. Blocks are great here too if the mat feels far away. But you're still scissoring those inner thighs, trying to square the hips, and then pressing down into all four corners of both feet. Then come up halfway with the chest, put a bend in the right knee, step that left foot forward, and immediately step the right foot back 2/3 of the way. Toes pointed at a sharp angle, this time more like 1 o'clock. Square the hips, fold over the left leg. See what's happening here. Adjust the hands to get them in the right spot. So you can just breathe into the pose. Pyramid without the modification. Then coming up halfway with the chest and the gaze, put a bend in that left knee, step the right foot forward, inhale up halfway, hands up the sides of the legs, exhale, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, maybe a vinyasa if you want on the way to downward facing dog. Right leg reaches up and back. Right foot outside of the right hand, wide lizard lunge. Keep reaching that heart forward. Then back to three-legged down dog. Right knee, left tricep. You could take fallen triangle. You could play with grabbing the outer edge of that right foot, coming onto the inner edge of the left foot and extending the leg that way. It's a different opening. Skip it if it's weird. And then come back. Left hand comes down. Right leg reaches up and back. Step that right foot all the way through, up between the hands, feet hip width. Take your time, crescent pose when you're ready. Then warrior three, reach the arms forward, shift the weight forward, keep that back leg strong so it's not hanging back behind you. Bend the standing leg, reach back, crescent pose. Then start to hover the arms forward, chest forward, left hand down to the mat, right arm reaches up. Find that half bind, turn the right palm to face behind you, right arm behind the back. Right arm reaches up, bring the right hand down to the mat, back to downward facing dog. Up to you on the vinyasa. Once you get to downward facing dog, left leg reaches up and back. Left foot outside of the left hand, reach the chest forward. Back to three-legged dog. Left knee, right tricep. Roll onto the inner edge of the back foot. Either extend the leg or grab the outer edge of the left foot, extend the leg. Hips lift up. Back to three-legged down dog from wherever you were. Step that left foot all the way through, up between the hands, feet hip width, crescent in your own time. Warrior three, arms forward, shift the weight forward. Back to crescent pose, take your time. Then reaching the arms forward, hovering over the thigh. Right hand comes down under the shoulder, left arm reaches up. Turn that left palm to face behind you. Wrap the left arm behind the back. Left arm reaches back up. Bring the left hand down to the mat, back to downward facing dog. Up to you on the vinyasa. Then bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose, bend the knees, reach the arms up. Lift that left heel up, shifting more weight onto the right foot. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Bring yourself up to standing. Left arm reaches back. You decide, hang on to the knee or grab the outer edge of the foot, extending the leg. So the leg's going to be a little bit more open, but it still doesn't have to be all the way straight. Right thigh presses back, stand tall. Then reach the arms forward, extend that left leg forward. Set the left foot down next to the right foot. Bend the knees, chair pose. Shift the weight over to the left foot, hover the right heel, hug the right knee in toward the chest, bring it up to standing. Level off those sit bones. Right arm reaches back behind you. Stay with the knee or play with grabbing the outer edge of the foot. Back to center with the upper body. Reach those arms up, leg up, feet side by side. Bend the knees, Utkatasana chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Stay here for an extra breath. And then from here, step the left foot back behind you 2/3 of the way, just like we did before. And then come up halfway and fold over the right leg. Just here for a few breaths. Come back to halfway with the chest. So you're up on the fingertips. Left hand can be right underneath the left shoulder. It could be on the ankle, top of the foot. Deepest variation outside the foot. Right arm reaches up, scissor those inner thighs, lengthen the spine forward, and then find that twist for your revolve triangle. Press down into the feet to get more length in the spine. Look back down at the mat, hands to the mat, framing that front foot. Bend in that right knee as you step the left foot forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, fingertips back down to the mat. Right foot steps back 2/3 of the way this time. Back to pyramid pose. Scissor the inner thighs. Left hip goes back, right hip goes forward. Fold over that left leg. Then coming up halfway, reaching the heart forward, right hand underneath the shoulder, top of the foot, ankle area, or maybe outside the foot. Left arm reaches up, scissor those inner thighs, press down into the legs, get as long as you can in the spine, and then spread that chest open. Look down at the mat, hands come back down to the mat on each side of the foot. Bend that left knee, step the right foot forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose, last vinyasa, or just go straight back to downward facing dog. This is it. We'll cool down after this. That was our peak. Everything working toward that revolve triangle, which is a big pose. You definitely have to be very warm with the legs open. Bring the knees down to the mat. Come back to child's pose. Big toes together, forehead down. Arms in front of you or back behind you. And we'll play with some back bends. Bring the hands underneath you, lift the chest, bring the feet over to one side and come to seated on the mat. Lie down onto your back with the soles of the feet on the mat. Walk the feet in so the heels are underneath the knees. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, starting with bridge pose. Get those shoulder blades underneath you, outer upper arms. Press down into the mat. Legs are strong. That's what helps you lift and spread the front side of the body. Take one more inhale. Exhale, release. Hips come back down to the mat. 2 more rounds of back bends. Stick with bridge pose. If you want something deeper, go for it. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. Set to Bandhasana. Or something else. If you're going for upward facing bow, that's fine too. Wherever you are in either of those poses, tailbone up between the knees. One more inhale, lift. And exhale, release. Hips are heavy on the mat. Take a couple of breaths here. Third and final back bend. Press into the feet. Lift the hips up. Bridge, Urdhva, you choose. One more inhale. And the exhale brings you back down. Move the feet to the outer edges of the mat and let the knees just come together in the center. So the knees are knocked. Then heel toe the feet back to hip width distance. Scoot the hips over to the right. Bring the knees to the left, coming into an easy spinal twist. So right arm reaches outside the shoulder. So a lot of twists today in our flow. Hopefully this twist is feeling familiar and good in the body and helping you release that last back bend series. And we'll switch sides. Find center on your back. Once you're there, scoot the hips to the left, knees to the right, reach that left arm back behind you. Find your twist going the other way. Left arm comes all the way over to the right. So you're lying on your right side. Use that left hand to press yourself up to seated. Come to all fours. So tabletop. We'll do one last hip opening and we'll transition from downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. This will feel familiar, but it's cooling down. Right leg reaches up and back like we did before. Look forward. Right foot steps outside of the right hand. Set the back knee down and try to scoot that back knee as far back as you can. So you want to be above the kneecap if possible. You can untuck the toes, rest the top of the foot on the mat. So you can keep the hands right where they are underneath the shoulders. Blocks are great because you can kind of get an in-between option. You can stack blocks, bring the forearms down, or maybe you just have one block, you bring that to any of the 3 heights, or maybe your forearms come all the way down to the mat. So finding your lizard pose that works for you. Keep reaching the chest forward. Then come back up onto the hands if you're not there already. Left hand stays underneath the left shoulder, right hand, right hip, open the chest to the right. So back in that twist, stay here, or you can bend the back knee, reach back, grab for the foot if it's there. If it's not, then just let it go and keep the right hand on the right hip. If you have the foot, gently release it. Right foot comes back to center, right hand outside of the right foot, half splits. Shift the hips back, lifting those front toes up, reach the heart forward. Maybe you push that heel forward a little bit. If you feel like you want a fuller version of splits, go for it. Start to extend the back leg back at the same time. Find a scissoring of the inner thighs wherever you are. We'll come back onto the sole of the right foot, hands down to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step back to downward facing dog. Left leg lifts up and back, left foot outside of the left hand. Wide lizard lunge. Back knee comes down, but scoot it back as far as you can before you untuck the toes. And then find where you want the chest. Maybe you're right where you need to be. Maybe you're using blocks or something else like a block, or maybe you're coming down onto the forearms, reaching the heart forward. Sometimes it's just one forearm that comes down. So this side, my right forearm comes down, but my left is still a little lifted. That's fine too. One hand at a time, coming back up. Bring the left hand to the left hip, open the chest to the left. See how this feels? Maybe this is enough, or you can play with bringing that right foot in and seeing if you can grab it. Don't keep reaching if you can't connect. You could also loop a strap and lasso the foot, but that transition can be kind of awkward too. It's better if you have a teacher in the room that can go over and do it for you. All right, gently set the right foot back down. Bring the left hand outside the left foot. So heel toe the left foot back to center. Shift the hips back so that you can straighten the front leg. Push the heel forward. Ardha Hanuman. So half splits, reaching the heart forward. Or a fuller version of splits if you did it on the first side. We're cooling down, so keep that in mind if it's going to bring too much energy into the body if you do a fuller version, or if you just can't resist, go for it. Back onto the sole of the left foot, wherever you are, hands to the mat, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, down dog, just a transition to child's pose. Knees come down to the mat, big toes together. Set the head down, not here for long, just a couple of breaths. Lifting the head up, bring the feet over to one side and come to seated on the mat. Lying all the way down onto your back. Hug the knees in toward the chest. Happy baby, open up the legs. Grab onto whatever's right there. So it doesn't have to be the feet. It could be the ankles, the calves, the thighs. You want those knees wide though. So get them wider than the torso. That's when the hip opening starts to happen. Tailbone down toward the mat, chest nice and open, heads resting. You can rock side to side. You could straighten the legs or one leg at a time, or you could just stay in stillness. Hug the knees back in toward the chest. Close the eyes. Take a deep inhale in through the nose. Exhale, Shavasana. Extend the legs out in front of you. Start to get yourself comfortable, moving any props or anything around you out of the way so you're not touching anything. And if you'd rather do a seated meditation, you're welcome to do that too. But you want to find stillness. Shavasana is where the whole practice starts to come together. You'll start to find some movement in the hands and the feet. If you're on your back, reach the arms overhead, stretch out through the legs, coming back to your body, back into this space where your practice started. Then walk the feet in, bending the knees, roll over to your right side, cradle the head on the arm. Just stay here for a moment with the eyes closed. Being grateful for your body and all that it does for you and how far it's gotten you. Use the left hand to press yourself up, finding your meditation seat, easy cross-legged seat, keeping the eyes closed if you can. Sitting up tall, bringing the hands together in front of you. Keeping that lift of the chest, start to bow the head, taking a moment to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks so much for joining and sharing your practice. Look forward to seeing you again next week.